The Chief Minister of Indian Union Territory Goa and country's former Defence Minister Manohar Parrikar has passed away after a long battle with a pancreatic cancer in Panjim. Parrikar was being treated at his Goa residence. A centre has announced national mourning for the three-time Goa Chief Minister today. The national flag will be flown at half-mast in New Delhi and capitals of all states and union territories as well. A 7-day state mourning from March 18 to 27th will be observed in the state of Goa. India's External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj held talks with her Maldivian counterpart Abdullah Shahid and reviewed progress on important bilateral issues. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Ravish Kumar took to Twitter and said that both the sides discuss ongoing and future cooperation across spheres like defence, capacity building, health and other consular issues. India and Maldives exchanged 3 agreements on visa facilitations or in fact, diplomatic and official passport holders, development, cooperation and renewable energy as well. The data of the cockpit voice recorder from the crashed Ethiopian Airlines flight has been successfully downloaded for analysis in the investigation. According to the Ethiopian Transport Minister, the initial information from the flight data recorder of an Ethiopian Airlines plane shows clear similarities with an earlier disaster involving the same kind of Boeing aircraft in Indonesia. But the Transport Minister did not elaborate on what the similarities were. Investigation agency has said that they have sent the downloaded voice document to Ethiopian investigators. Families of the victims of the Ethiopian Airlines crash last week had to bury coffins filled with charred earth as none of the bodies has yet been formally identified and many of the bodies were destroyed by the impact and the fire. Some family members have been given charred earth from the crash site to remember their loved ones. The Boeing 737 MAX 8 aircraft had crashed shortly after it took off for the Kenyan capital, killing all 157 people on board last week. Australian counter-terrorism police have searched 2 homes in support of New Zealand police's investigation. The houses are linked to the gunman who is charged in the mass shooting of about 50 people in New Zealand's mosque. Police searched a home in the New South Wales town of Sandy Beach. The police also said that the family of the Australian suspect continues to assist police with their inquiries. People in New Zealand's Christchurch have headed for sites near the mosques to pay their last respects to the victims of the nation's worst ever terror attacks. Investigators are underway and the heavily armed police to the forensic team searching the streets for evidence. Meanwhile, imams are flying into Christchurch from around New Zealand as part of a national coordination team to plan funerals and burials so that families can start their traditional 3 days of mourning. Nine Pakistanis have been killed in New Zealand's shootings. Vigils were held across Pakistan for the victims of the Christchurch mosque attacks. None of the bodies of the victims were immediately released due to the investigation, leaving families unable to bury their dead within 24 hours, which is customary in Islam. Australian citizen Brenton Tarrant has been charged with murder and been remanded without a plea and is due back in court on April the 5th. Palestinians and Israelis mourn the victims of the mass shootings at 2 mosques in New Zealand that killed 50 people. Israeli Jews and Muslims gathered for a joint prayer and candlelight vigil in front of the New Zealand consulate in Tel Aviv. The 65-year-old engineer from Bethlehem was one of the 50 killed in New Zealand. His family has received condolences from the local mourners. One Israeli has been killed and 2 others have been seriously wounded. A West Bank shooting which took place in West Bank. Now, according to the security officials, the incident occurred when a Palestinian stabbed an Israeli soldier and grabbed his assault rifle at the Ariel and Jutai intersection. The assailant then fired at 3 vehicles and hijacked a civilian's car before driving to another junction nearby, where he shot the second Israeli soldier. Israeli troops have begun searching for the gunman. Responding to the West Bank shooting attack, the Islamist group Hamas dubbed it as a natural response to crimes committed by the Israeli occupation. Hamas supporters handed out sweets to passerbys and others marched on the streets hailing the lethal attack that killed an Israeli soldier. Palestinians carried out a wave of attacks in the West Bank in late 2015 and 2016, but the frequency of such incidents has been decreasing ever since. Several hundred opposition activists gathered in Moscow calling for social and political change in the country. Protesters demanded major changes in the government, parliament and the central bank, nationalization of national resources and setting up a social welfare state. The rally called for justice for Russia for the new course, united a number of left-wing and nationalist parties and movements, including the Left Front party-led. The protest ended peacefully without clashes or detentions.
Было видно.
Запретили проводить митинги, фотоотчеты, видеоотчеты об этих акциях, которые доказывают, что
the British counter-terrorism police are investigating an attempted murder which has hallmarks of a terror event inspired by the far right and have arrested a 50-year-old counter-terrorism police Southeast. Said it was investigating the non-fatal stabbing of a 19-year-old man in Stanwell following reports of a man shouting racist comments whilst carrying a baseball bat and a knife. Now, Mexico's border city of Ciudad Juarez is struggling to accommodate migrants who are waiting for their asylum application to the U.S. to be processed. With migrant safe houses reportedly stretched to the limit, local authorities have set up temporary facilities near the international bridge connecting the town and El Paso in Texas. Asylum seekers have traditionally been granted the right to stay in the U.S. while their cases were being decided by a U.S. immigration judge. But a backlog of more than 8 lakh cases means that the process can take years now. Thousands of Brazilians have turned out across the country against corruption. The protest erupted amidst concerns that a recent court ruling could water down investigations against top public officials. Protesters have accused the Supreme Court of weakening corruption probes as part of the widespread Lava Jato investigations. Earlier this week, Brazil's Supreme Court ruled that corruption cases involving illegal campaign donations should be handled by electoral courts. The fire has started at the Intercontinental Terminals company near Houston in Texas. Some residents in the Houston area have been urged to find a safe location indoors after a fire broke out at a petrochemical terminal. No injuries have been reported, but the cause of the fire remains unknown. The death toll has risen to 64 in Zimbabwe after the worst cyclone hit the eastern parts of the country. The tropical storm has already pounded neighboring Malawi and Mozambique. Latter has cut electricity exports to South Africa, which led to rolling blackouts in Africa's most industrialized economy. The storm is the worst to hit the country since Cyclone Eileen in February 2000.
Lost 2 calves. A lot of goats and chickens from upriver also kept lost. Hectic stuff. Woo.
Flash floods and landslides have been triggered by torrential rains in Indonesia's province of Papua have killed at least 58 people. A dozen people have been injured and more than 4,000 people have been displaced. A search for more possible victims is underway in the town of Sentani. About 4,150 people are sheltering in 6 evacuation centers. He added that the disaster authorities have warned local governments of flash flood risks due to deforestation in the mountains surrounding the town. US President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump made a rarely seen visit to St. John's Episcopal Church on St. Patrick's Day. The historic church stands opposite the White House and has long been frequented by past US presidents, earning it the nickname Church of the Presidents. Trump's last attended religious services in December at Washington National Cathedral.